Welcome to the Christian Men at Work podcast, where I interview men from all walks of life with varying job titles who have one thing in common. They are all choosing daily to live out their Christian faith through their work, and because of that, they are leading, prospering, glorifying God, and experiencing joy and purpose in their work. And you can too. Men at Work, welcome to episode 201. Today I'm going to be talking with Jerry Jacobs about how to save your marriage. Let's go straight to the interview. Hey, Jerry, thanks so much for joining the podcast today. How are you?
Thanks, Dave. I'm doing good, man.
That's great. Well, I'm very much looking forward to this topic today, and this is an unusual topic. Our podcast is called Christian Men at Work, and generally speaking, I've limited my interviews to topics related to faith and work, the combination of the two. And at first glance, what we're going to talk about doesn't necessarily seem like it has to do with work, but I'll be honest and transparent. I shared with my listeners recently that I'm going through challenges with my marriage for sure right now. And I've met a lot of men recently, who are having similar struggles. And I know what a big deal it is. And I know it's a big need out there for men, both when they're going through a storm as well as just to learn how to have a better marriage and prevent storms. And so when I learned about what you do, I was definitely ready for it. I thought it was a God thing when I heard about it. And the other thing is, I just want to say this real quick before we get started. I've learned over time that you can't draw a line and separate work and personal. We are one being, and our whole life should be integrated. Our faith should be integrated into our faith, and we talk a lot about that, integrating our faith at work, not just church on Sunday or what have you. And in the same way, when we're struggling at home, it affects our work, and when we're struggling at work, it affects our personal life. And so for all those reasons, I'm excited about it. So, but let's get started by learning a little bit about your backstory. And I like to ask this of most of my people I interview. Tell us a little bit about you growing up and how you came into a relationship with Christ.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, man. I will say I'm not probably not like, well, I guess I could be like your normal person with that in the faith, because when I was growing up in my family, like my family was all over the place. Like my grandmother was Jehovah's Witness, my other grandmother was Presbyterian. My mother and father really wasn't anything, but they tried to get us to the Baptist church. And then the funny thing is, after a while, they would make me and my sister get up in the morning, and on Sunday they take us to church, and then they go back home and get into bed. So, you know, so man, I didn't have and then the way always thought about church was everybody was fake. Like, people don't live kind of like what your podcast is about. You want to talk to people that live the faith, not just in their lives at work, in their environment. They influence their environment. And well, I thought that people, once they left outside the church, they didn't they would just go back to sleeping with their girlfriends or living with their boyfriend or whatever they did Monday through Saturday. And for the most part, that was kind of true. And I really didn't see a good example of what a church person was. And so as I grew up, I was in the military. I went to the military, to the Air Force, and a lot of my friends would always say, Jerry, come on, man. Let's go to church, man, with me on Sunday. I was like, man, I'm not going to no church, man. I got to watch NFL Football Zone. And plus, man, Sunday's my sleep day. I wouldn't try, man, I wouldn't try to do nothing. Football zone, basketball zone, that's what I'm trying to do on Sunday. I'm trying to rest, right? And so what would happen is, as I went along, I believed in God and stuff, but I'm like a lot of people, they don't really bring it out or say anything about it because I really didn't care. I thought I was in control, that if I worked really hard, if I did what I was supposed to do, if I, tried as hard as I could. And I didn't even know that there was such thing called the natural law, like that the 10 commandments are like written on our heart, that we're naturally are ordered towards God. I didn't even know that much. So I would just kind of just went on with my life. And then man, I got married. My first marriage, I got married, and dude, my wife, she was Catholic. She was Native American. My first wife was Native American, and she was Catholic, but they didn't practice. They didn't do nothing. You know, they didn't do nothing. She didn't never said, "Hey, baby, let's go to church" or nothing. So I was kind of the leader, and I was like, "Hey, I don't want to do any. I didn't want to do anything." And so what happened was, man, my wife, me and my we started having marital problems, and they were really bad, And what happened was, dude, my wife, while we were in divorce court, my wife got sick of with leukemia. And so, like I said today on my podcast, it was so stupid. We two grown ass people, and man, we can't get together. You know, all we had to do was let our pride go, and all I had to say was, "Baby, let's just make this work." And all she had to do was say, "Baby, let's make this work." But we didn't. We are in court. I had a lawyer, and she didn't. And like I said the other day, I just felt so bad for my wife, and I loved her. I still loved her, and she got to talk, and I just want to say, "Sweetheart, let's just let this go." But our pride was in the way. We thought it had gone too far, and I would just look at her, and I felt that's probably the man. Look, Dave, that's probably the most saddest day I've ever felt in my whole life. When I looked at my wife, and she was a very beautiful woman, and I looked at her, and I just felt so bad. Then she didn't have a lawyer, so I was kind of pouncing on her too. So my husbandly protective mechanism kicked in, and I wanted to go over there and save her, but I couldn't. So when my wife died, she died, and we were in divorce court, and she left me with my two boys. So I started to ask myself, dude, what are you gonna do? I mean, you got to get another wife for these to raise these boys. I'm a man. So that's what I did. In my second marriage, I got married to another beautiful woman, a great soul, and man, we had other kids together. So we got 5 kids together all together. And guess what, man? The same crap started happening in my second marriage. It started happening in my first marriage, man. Same stuff. And I was like, okay, now something is wrong here. Like, something is definitely wrong. Like, I had 2 marriages and both of them are going to crap. What am I going to do? So I looked in the mirror, and which is what most men don't do, right? But I looked in the mirror, even as a Bayesian agnostic. I looked in the mirror and at myself and said, "Man, what is the common denominator? What is the common denominator between these 2 marriages?" And guess what it was? It was me. It was me. And so after that, man, then what happened was, me and my wife, I decided to become Catholic. And so once I did that, again, I became Catholic, man, but I didn't go to church. We kind of did every now, Christmas and Easter, right? you know, but we really weren't going like we're supposed to. And I didn't even know it was a mortal sin to miss church on Sunday. I didn't even know that. And so as we went along, I went on this retreat. So one time I went on this retreat, one of my friends asked me to go on this retreat. So I said, it was a Catholic retreat. I said, yeah, man, I'll go, because he was the one to go by himself. So I went, and that changed my life.
Well, let's get into some of the things that you talk about through your ministry. One of the things I understand you say is that most men, they don't need to solve the problem or the problem with isn't toxic masculinity, that we hear that term all the time, but rather that no one's ever explained to men what their mission is. In other words, their purpose. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So first of all, I love when they call me toxic, say the word toxic man. You should take that as pride. You know why? Because that means you're going against you're on the side of Christ, and you're going against, because notice the only people that ever get called toxic for the most part is really men who stand up for themselves and try to portray themselves as God. Now I know some, I mean, pray them, use their masculinity the way Christ want them to use it. I know there's some men that just are regular men too, but we all have Christ inside of us, trying to get our masculinity out, because masculinity is a perfection in the eyes of God, just like femininity is a perfection in the eyes of God. And you put those two together, and you have a perfect human being, right? So when people say we're toxic, I love it, because that means I'm doing something right. So the other thing is, men, they don't, most men, like I did, I grew up, I didn't know my mission as a man. I didn't, like, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, why am I here? Like, what is my purpose here? And so a lot of times, men, we just kind of go on our own because nobody taught us what our mission is. And our mission comes from God, but nobody really knows that. So, so let me go into it real quick. So here's the deal. In the Garden of Eden, God did what? He told Adam to name stuff. So when you name stuff, that means what? You are responsible for it. You are the one responsible for it. People think that this submit to Christ and submit to your husband, all that stuff is a kind of a man-made kind of. No, it's not. It's really in Scripture if you just look at it, and that's why you have to know how to interpret Scripture properly. And so that was the first thing. First of all, Adam is responsible. He's our first parent, our first father. So that makes us responsible for everything in our home as a man. That means what? We're responsible for the diapers, the dishes, the children, responsible for all the money, the happiness of our wife, the success of our marriage. We are responsible for making sure all that stuff is taken care of. But what do most men do? They are stuck in the way Satan has crafted the world of, like, well, look, when she gets it together, why is she doing her part? Or when she fixes herself, I'll fix myself. Man, that is the road to a crappy marriage, the road to hell. That's the demonic in between you and your wife. What you have to do is understand your mission. So that's part of your mission. That's your general mission. Now, the other way that you know that what I'm saying is true, that we are tasked, the man is tasked to lead his home and take care of his home the way God would have it, is when Eve ate the apple, and then punk Adam ate it too, and then he went to God. God said, no, he didn't go to God. God came and said, hey, Adam, come here. He didn't say, hey, Eve, come here, did he? Also, in the beginning, also, when God had Adam name stuff and give him responsibility, Eve wasn't even around yet. So this is how you know, as a man, listen, I know it's hard out here. Like I always say, it's hard for a pimp out here. It's hard being a man in our society today, because no one appreciates the gift of masculinity, which is a God-given gift. And so what happens is people disregard it. And so why? Listen, Eve, your wife, your beloved, she is responsible. The reason that she can't do all the stuff that men are supposed to do is because there's two jobs. There's the job of the man, who has the general responsibility for everything, and then there's Eve, who is your wife. She's responsible for the children, because somebody has to raise the children. That's why women are emotional and men are more logical. Those are perfections. Those are part of feminine and masculine traits. And so what happens is God knew that us as men could not do this big, gigantic job by ourselves. That's why he gave us this fine, beautiful wife of ours. And so her job is to what? To guide us, to nurture us, to nurture our children. And so she becomes the heart of the home. Why? So that men, we can go out and do what we're supposed to do. And that's how it's supposed to work. Now, that being said, there's also a threefold mission that every man has that most men don't know. Now, if you men out there know this, hey, man, God bless you. But most guys don't. So the first mission of a man is this: protect. So everybody knows that one. Protect, provide, protect, protect your family from outside physical threats. But there's another part of protection: protect your wife from you. And most men don't know that one. And the reason that men don't know that one is because they think I can sit there and argue with my wife. I can call her the B word, call her the C word. I can yell at her. I can call her names. I can neglect her. I'm gonna hang with my buddies all the time. I don't want to be around her. She goes, does her job. I do my job. And we think that our wife is supposed to just like take that. Look, man, our wives didn't sign up for that. Our wife didn't sign up to wash dishes, have all these kids. They didn't sign up to take out the trash and work 8, 12 hours a day, have bad sex, and then have some dude neglect her for 20 or 30 years. She didn't. Your wife signed up for your love. And when we don't do our part as the husband, that is breaking a promise. You promised me that you was going to cherish me for the rest of your life. You promised me that you was going to court and date me for the rest of your life. You promised me that I'd be number one in your life. You promised me that. Now, 5 years into the marriage, a year into the marriage, you don't even want to be around me. See, women, and so when we do those things to our wives, it hurts them from the top of their head to the bottom of her toes. This is the power of a man. If we even listen, if you notice, if you just raise your voice to your wife a little bit, how hurt she becomes. A lot of times she'll show it in anger, but it's really hurt. It's really pain. And so the reason why is because we're bonded. The reason why we can hurt our wife so much is because we're bonded. We're bonded through, where most of us get married in front of God. So we're bonded through God. The second thing is we're bonded through children, having children. And the third one we're bonded is chemically through the marital embrace. And so that's why we can hurt our wives so deep. But men forget that. So that's the mission. That's your first mission, protect. The second mission as a man is to defend. Defend your home from the demonic. Now look, if you a Christian, any kind of Christian, you've got to believe what Christ said. Christ mentions demons in the New Testament a whole lot of times, 100 or something. So this stuff about there's no such thing as a supernatural world, there's no angels, there's no guardian angels, there's no demons, none of that stuff. That's ludicrous. That's ludicrous. Like I said today on my podcast, I'm not a stupid man. St. Thomas Aquinas is not a stupid man. My parish, most of our pastors are not stupid men. We come through the faith of God through logic, and we can prove that God exists. But what do people do? They let somebody tell them that there's no demonic in around the world. That's ludicrous. That's ludicrous. Another thing too is the reason it's our job to defend against the demonic and Satan is because again, our power in the home is way more than our wives. Why? Because we have the power of protection and defense. That's our job. So God gave us more graces to be able to do those things.
What are some real quick tips on how to defend from the demonic within the family?
When we neglect our wives and we neglect our homes, then Satan kind of walks right through us and goes and get up in bed with our wife and starts talking to her, and so she gets influenced by the devil, and so that's why our homes become chaotic. The third way our third mission as a man is to serve God first, our wife in marriage second, our children third, and we serve ourselves last. And the reason that we do that is because before we think about our happiness, our wants, desires, and needs, we must make sure those three entities are taken care of first. And when we don't do that, our wives don't respect us. When we all because we're selfish. We're thinking that we're putting our needs above God and her and the kids. And most women rebel against that. As far as the demonic, the reason how I know most men have not don't know how to defend their home is because they're not in the prayer properly. There's prayers that are powerful prayers that we're supposed to be using that will help get get the demonic out of our home and so that we can think clearly. And so that is the job of the man because, like I said, he's given certain powers in the home as far as protection and defense, and that's why his prayers are more power than his wife's.
Let's talk specifically about when there's challenges in a marriage or when the marriage is going bad. You say that the husband needs to fix himself first, and then his wife can fix herself. Why is that important?
The way God has set it up, we are the we are the leaders and the servers of the family. So it's in us and our wife. It's in our wife and children to wait until we get it together. Men think, well, I can go out here and do what I want, how I want, and everybody in the house supposed to do what I say. That's not how it works. Women and children aren't stupid. Your wife allows you to lead your family. You don't really take control of it because we all know if our wife is not happy, she will cause chaos in our home real quick. This is why we have to fix ourselves, right? We become more holy, more virtuous. We get ourselves together and we fix ourselves. And then guess what will happen? We become worthy of the gift of our wife and our children. And then our wife looks at us and goes, oh my God, he's this different man now. And so what she does is she looks at herself and goes, I got to become worthy of him. What can I do to fix myself? I got to fix myself now. But see, dudes think, well, like I said earlier, well, when she fixes her, I'll fix me. Well, okay, so now you got two grown people with ego in between them talking about, well, when you fix you, I'll fix me. This is why we are charged with the responsibility of everything. Because if God didn't do that, man, then nobody would do anything. The man would never do his job. Look at our society today. Men don't do nothing because the women run the society today. So guess what? All the men go, well, she's got it. She's got it. And so that's how it works. And then the great and beautiful thing about this is when you as a man get it together, what happens is you take away all your wife's ammunition. Because she looks at you and goes, well, you're telling me to do this and you're not doing nothing. You're doing this, this, and that, or you're doing that. Well, why should I change? Well, you're going to keep doing what you're doing. But once you change and get together, your wife no longer has ammunition to fire at you. Because that's when she starts to look at herself. Well, the marriage is still kind of going wrong. So he's then got himself together. So it must be me. I need to look at myself. And your kids are the same way. If a man's kids are saying, I hate you, they're disrespectful, they call you names, they get in trouble at school, they're in juvenile, they got bad grades, blah, 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 the whole thing. It's because we're not in prayer properly. It's because we are not setting the example that we're supposed to set.
You're actually saying that man has a unique role to do this, and that's the way God intended it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And so here's the great payoff. Once you fix you as the husband, your wife will serve you 10 times more. That's the great payoff. But see, men don't know that. That is the great payoff, baby. That your wife, once she knows you love her more than anything, once she knows that she's number one in your life, once you put her on the pedestal as the woman, as your beloved, once you stop arguing and fighting with her and calling her names and you start showing her that, and you become that man that she needs, the man God created you to be, your wife will begin to do what St. Paul says in Ephesians 5:21-33. The husband and wife both submit to Christ. The husband submits to Christ, and the woman submits to her husband, and the kids submit to the wife and the husband. She will do it lovingly and willingly do it. She will again allow you to lead the family. Why? Because she naturally wants to deal with the kids. But if she doesn't trust us,
when that doesn't happen and the man does not treat the wife the way he should, they have what you've called an exit strategy. What is that about?
Okay, so the exit strategy is your future as a man. So you've got to realize for a woman, the most important thing for her is the emotional closeness, the emotional connection, the nurturing. Most men won't let their wife nurture them, and she has a need to do that. So when the emotional connection is gone, what a woman would do is a year or two. Most women plan to leave about a year or two, mostly 2 years, sometimes 5 years. They start planning to get away from you because a woman goes, okay, there's no emotional connection. He doesn't. I feel now. You got to remember, this is what your wife's thinking. This is not what a man's thinking. Because men love their wives. They just forgot. They just forgot how to treat her. They forgot how special she is. So a woman goes, well, he doesn't love me. He neglects me. He doesn't really take care of me like he doesn't show me I'm special, and then there's no emotional closeness anymore. So I'm just gonna leave. So here's the deal: when if a woman starts to think she can be happier without you than she is with you, she will leave. You got to remember, women choose us. We don't choose them. So if a man's wife is out messing around on him, now listen, I'm not stupid. I know that's a mortal sin. I know that's wrong. But you got to know women. Women, once they choose us, they don't want to give their life, their body to another man. They don't want another man. They want you, but you ain't listening. You neglecting her. So she goes, well, only thing I got is to play my cards. And my cards is this: I can't hit you on top of the head. I can't beat you up. I can't kick your butt. So I'm gonna play. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna nag you. And if you don't listen, then if things don't get better, then I'm gonna move out, or I'm gonna get me another man, or I'm gonna go to, or I'm gonna move to another bedroom. If you don't make it better, if you don't get be the man I need, then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask for a divorce. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna file for divorce, and I'm gonna get it because in every state there is no fault divorce. And so then the lawyer and the wife start to take your money. Then what happened is she'll get a divorce, and then if you're Catholic, she will file for an annulment. That's the wife's exit strategy, and she will not stop it until you get it together. But she's the thing about guys don't understand is their wife still loves them, man. But she feels that she has no other choice. We as husbands, we've got to start looking at the relationship at all times from our wife's point of view. Why? So that we get our egos out of it.
One aspect of the wife's point of view is this need for emotional closeness, right? Why is that so important for women?
Because remember how I told you about it's in the natural law. It's in God's. That's how God set it up. That's why when I was going through the Garden of Eden thing, and I told you that it naturally men are more logical and women are more emotional. That both of those are perfections. That women need that to bond and connect with the children. So sometimes women use their emotional powers in the wrong way, right? Of course they do. When they get hurt, that's what they do. So that is why she's like that. She's like that because it's in her like that. Women consider emotions first. It's how I feel. Like right now, if a man's wife leaves her right now and he goes, baby, what's wrong? What can I do to fix it? Well, how can I, what can I do to make it right? She goes, I don't know. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know how you can make it right. I just know I'm not happy. Right? That's what you've heard that one before. Because they're emotional, they're emotionally confused, man. They just know how they feel. And what husbands try to do is they try to attack their wife with logic. So guess what? There becomes a debate and an argument. We start fighting. And when you start fighting with your wife, especially if she got another man, what she's going to do is you're going to push her to him. Guys don't understand what you have to do is when you and your wife are arguing and fighting, all you're doing is pushing her away. What you have to do is do things to draw her back to you. And that's how you get your wife away from another man. I've done it many times.
How do you do that?
So I had a client, man. What happened was, people don't really understand the pain that men go through. I had a client, man. His wife would go to bed at night with him. Now they weren't sleeping. They weren't making love. And what she would do is she'd get up in the middle of the night. She'd go to her dude's house, have sex with him, and then come back home and get into bed with my client. Now you're talking about pain. See? And so if you handle that wrong, you're going to make it worse. And so what I did with him is I said, look, man, stop arguing with her. Stop fighting with her. Don't try to control her and all that kind of stuff. Start drawing her back to you by being the man she needs, because naturally your wife has a stronger bond with you because of what? Because of God, the kids, and the marital embrace than she does with a home wrecker. But she feels she has no choice. And a lot of women will do that stuff, man, because they feel they have no choice to get the one who they really love to listen. But if you let it go on too long, then him and her become more and more bonded together. right? Because he treats me better. He respects me. He listens to me. The sex is exciting. Dude, that's how it works. But what most dudes want to do, Dave, they want to go fight the dude, beat him up and go to jail and all that kind of stuff. And that is going to make it worse because her nurturing is going to, she's with him. So her nurturing will start to want to protect him instead of you as her husband.
So this emotional closeness, another term for that is intimacy,
Emotional
which
intimacy. Yep. Yep.
yeah, we men think when we think of intimacy, we think of sex. So how are some ways to create intimacy with your wife outside of the bedroom?
Oh, beautiful. The first thing as a man, we've got to stop looking at our wife as a partner. We've got to stop looking at her as a buddy at work. We got to stop looking at her as a person that she's got her job to do. I got my job to do. When you talk to your wife, you have to learn how to communicate with her. And the way you do it is in your mind, when you talk to your wife, she is your beloved. In your mind, I'm not talking to my wife. I'm not talking to a buddy. I'm talking to my beloved. Because when we say beloved and we think beloved, that brings up a different image in our mind. Another thing too is when we our wife, the way we talk to our wife, we have to learn to listen and not offer anything. When your wife is talking, our mouth should be closed. I'm gonna say it again because this will improve your marriage in 2 weeks. When our wives' mouths are moving, our mouths are closed. And we attentively listen. We actively listen, which is what? With our body language, our eyes, we look her straight in her eyes. We have a sympathy, empathetic look on our face. We engage in conversation. We only interrupt her if we have a question, we need clarification on something. We don't input our input, and our body language says it everything. And then when she's done talking, the only thing you say as a husband is, baby, is there anything I can do to make it better? And then, or if she says, what do you think, Dave? Then you give your opinion because she's asking you for your opinion. Your wife just wants you to involve her in her life and she wants you to listen and value her opinion. But we get used to our women as being partners and all that kind of buddies and all that kind of stuff. And they're not. They can be hurt very easily by us. And so over the years, they shut down on us. Because if we talk, she goes, well, if I'm trying to talk to him, he's not listening to me anyway. So why say anything anymore?
This is something that men don't like to talk about openly, but men are plagued with all sorts of issues around sex that are go against how God intended things. One of them is erectile dysfunction, depression, premature ejaculation, masturbation, pornography. I know you talk about all these topics in your ministry, and those are things you don't usually talk about in church. But I'm learning that we only do ourselves a disservice by just trying to pretend that these issues don't exist. So, what would you say to the men out there that are dealing with one or more of these issues, and are these issues such a problem for men?
Okay. First of all, if a man comes to my program, I'm going to teach him how to become a world class lover. I'm not playing because most of us are terrible and nobody taught us. Our wives don't tell us because they don't want to hurt our feelings. So we're clueless. It's not fair. It's not fair. So the reason I talk about the marital embrace is because most people, like you just said, they're hypocrites when it comes to sex, right? They'll talk about it with their buddies, or they'll talk about it, they'll read about it, they'll watch pornography, all that stuff. But anybody that comes in church or whatever and tries to talk about the marital embrace the way God would have us do it, the way that, anyway, in a logical, systematic way to understand about what intimacy is really about, then everybody goes, oh, we can't talk about that, blah, 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 blah. But then their wife leads them because she's not fulfilled as a woman. You've got to understand sex for women is 10 times more important than it is for men, but that's not what we're taught. We're taught that sex is more important for men because that's all we think about. But women, Sex for women is this: it's psychological, emotional, and spiritual. It is. It leads to the fulfillment of your wife, the fulfillment and satisfaction of your beloved. So you have to talk about it. Even husbands and wives don't even talk about it. They don't. Like people don't even pray when they have sex. They don't. They make love. Why would, if you say you're a Christian, why wouldn't you bring the Holy Spirit and God in your bedroom? Just saying our Father who art in heaven. Say a Hail Mary. Anything that can, or God, can you please bless me and my wife in our intimacy or whatever? You pray before, during, or after. That's how you bring Christ in your bedroom. And why? Because because then what happens is lust becomes the thing. We want intimacy. We don't want eroticism, right? We want intimacy. Intimacy with God. That's three of us. Archbishop Foote J. Sheen wrote a book. It's called Three to Get Married. And he talks about it that, it takes three to make love: you, God, and your beloved wife. So what do we do? See, the problem is too, most men, they have sex with their wives before they get married. So guess what? When they get married, all the eroticism goes away because eroticism and lust is basically false. It's fake. It's not real. It doesn't last. Intimacy does. So when I say intimacy outside the bedroom, I have what I call a list. It's called the intimacy ladder. So there's three levels. And the first level is things like holding hands with your wife, go for walks after dinner, sit by her on the couch and let her put her leg over your knee. Watch a movie together and pause it. Heck, pause it and have discussions about the movie. Women, their thing is a conversation. You got to learn how to talk with your beloved, and so that because women, when they talk, when they hear the man talk, it makes them want to be with him. And when they enjoy talking to you, that gets them, you're preparing your wife for your love. Most men think, well, I didn't work all day. Well, I got 5 or 10 minutes, baby. Let's do a quickie. Women, they really don't like quickies. Men, we don't care, but sex is about God and our wife. It's not about us. And so when we have to learn to prepare our wife for our love, pat her on her butt, walk over from behind her, kiss her on her neck, walk over and hold her while she's washing dishes or cooking. Get excited and passionate about your woman, man. Get excited about her again. So then she becomes excited about you. If I say it all the time, if a husband's marriage is boring and lukewarm and mediocre, is because, or and passionless, is because he's boring, lukewarm, and passionless. Remember, you are the pursuer. Your wife is the pursuee. They love that stuff. But what do? We go to work, eat, wake up again, kick the kids, kick the dog, and go to bed and wake. That's what we do.
Wow. So at the end of the day, it's about intimacy and passion, and being intentional. Is that one way of saying it?
Brother, when my wife walks through the door, look, I work 16 hours a day. But when my wife walks through the door, I get my butt out of my chair. I'll go in there and I hug my wife and tell her, I'm so excited to see you. I haven't seen you. Man, you ain't seen your wife in 10 hours, dude. And she walks through the door and you can't get up and go hug her and kiss her and tell her you missed her? What do you think? I mean, then she becomes like, well, that's guess what he gonna do. Women, remember, your wife and children do what you do. If you're not passionate about the relationship, why should she be? Well, because she got to do her stuff. Man, I could teach you how to have your wife come make love to you all the time, where she initiates sex. Oh, Jerry, how do you do that? No, I ain't telling you, because you don't need to know. No, I'm just playing. But my point of what I'm saying is, man, you 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 have to be. Once you learn what intimacy is really about, your wife will approach you to make love. Because most guys complain about what? Man, I'm always the one trying to make love to her. She'll never approach me. She'll never approach me because, man, you ain't earned the gift. Women know they got a gift, Dave. That's what I said. You are the pursuer, and you better start being the pursuer again, like you was when y'all was dating, or the first year you was married. Because listen, I don't know how old you are, Dave, but let's say you're 50. That means you got 50 more years of marriage, dude. Do you want to go through 50 years of a boring marriage? No passion, no, not God, no God around. I mean, no, nothing, none of that stuff. No, you don't. You don't.
Amen, brother. This has been awesome. I appreciate this. There's a lot to take in here, and I appreciate that you bring some humor into this, even though it is a heavy subject. It's such an important subject. So I've really enjoyed this, and I appreciate your time.
Thanks, man.
If anyone wants to learn more about what you do or reach out to you, how would they do that?
SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com, SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com. So you basically go there, and there's a marriage masterclass. You can watch it. So me and Dave have helped you today. And so the way I'm going to help you again is I have this marriage masterclass set up. You go, you sign up, you watch it, and if you want that, that'll help you too. And then if you decide you want more personal help, there's a button that pops up, and you can click on that to speak with me, and then we can go more into your particular marriage, and that's free too. So me and Dave are going to help you three ways. Here's the deal: most of us are close to what the church calls marriage crisis. So what is marriage crisis? Marriage crisis means your wife is asked for a divorce. You guys live in a separate bedroom. You make love less than once a week, or severe less than once a month. Your wife is filed for divorce, or you are divorced. Thus, marriage crisis. Most guys come to me when they are in that thing instead of fixing their marriage now. And so that's why I'm giving you this link, SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com, because I'm very passionate about what I do, and I really want to help you. And so does Dave. He really does. That's why he's got me on here. And look, man, you don't have to put up with this. You can learn for your wife to be the most loving, sweet, passionate woman that you've ever met, but you've got to initiate it. That's the power of you as being a man. That's your power.
All right. I don't know this for a fact. I've never done a study. I'm guessing that most of the guys listening are not Catholic, but I could be wrong. For those who are wondering, do they have to be Catholic to get a benefit out of what you do?
Oh, heck no. I just call it SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com because, I have all kind of Protestants, Baptists, non-denominational, but that's what I am, and that's what I started out. And so that's just good. But guys know that I'm Catholic. They know I'm Christian. So they sign up for my program all the time. And so that's my calling card, SaveMyCatholicMarriage.com. But yeah, man, I talk to Lutherans and Methodists all the time. Man, I even, believe it or not, dude,
okay, I just wanted to clarify.
I had a Muslim before.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap this up?
Look, man, I just want you as a man to realize that you have a purpose in this life. You have a mission. You really do. And just get into the serve mode of God, your wife, your child. Never, ever again consider your happiness, because that's not what real men do. Those three entities of your wife, your child, and your God, those should always come before your happiness, your wants, your desires, and your needs. Then God will give you the grace in your family to have your children, and your wife love you and serve you, because they know that you have their best interest at heart.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time and for all these gems you've shared. Hope you have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Dave, man. Thanks for having me, man. I had a fun time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Men at Work, I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I have. We just heard about Jerry Jacobs' journey, being spirit-led and living out his Christian faith through his work. Each of our journeys are unique, but hopefully you've heard something in this episode to inspire you and give direction for your own personal daily work life, which, as we said today, it's often hard to divide our work life from our personal life, and we talked more about personal life this time. You can find links and other information from this show at ChristianMenAtWork.com. Until next time, have a great day, and God bless.